started again.
Welcome back to one of the three meetings I have going simultaneously right now today. My name is Wayne Williams. I'm the Colorado Secretary of State. Thank you for joining us in our offices. And one of the things that makes my job great is that I have good people who can answer questions. And so we've got a crack elections team that when they're trying to figure out whether they're supposed to be telling people to be executed or set free, I can say this because Matt is distracted over there and not paying attention. But no, they're the ones who get the questions. What do I do? How do I handle this? And so I want to introduce Melissa Polk. She is our legal manager and makes things work in our elections department. And she's going to take it from there.
Thank you, Wayne. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you after you've had kind of the higher level First Amendment overview of our campaign finance laws. I'm going to talk to you about more of the nuts and bolts of what we do administratively here at the Secretary's office. I'm going to walk you through some of the administrative resources that we put out to try to help folks who are trying to comply with the laws, and show you a little bit of Tracer's functionality related to that complaint system that they were talking about this morning. And then after that, I have prepared a case law update, although I was telling Scott that he and Ed kind of stole my thunder on that. A lot of the cases that they alluded to, I'm going to talk to you about. I'll give you a little bit more in-depth summary on the factual basis for those cases. So we'll get started. So I just wanted to start at the base. Most of you are familiar with our Secretary of State website. We do have a campaign and political finance homepage on that website that has a number of resources for filers, for somebody who might be filing and have a campaign finance complaint filed against them, and for folks who want to file a campaign finance complaint. They see something out in their neighborhood or in their local election or statewide, and they think, hey, that's not right. These are some resources that we put out to assist both sides of that and what they need to do to get those either filed with us or to defend against them. And so here's our campaign finance page. I thought it would be better to just actually go to the page and kind of click through some of the things that we have. So I'm going to pull that up real quick. Bear with me. So here's our Secretary of State page. There's a campaign finance link, and that takes you to the page I was showing you. So if you have, we have the basic Tracer resources here. Some ballot access information for folks who know, hey, I want to become a candidate. How do I do that, and how do I comply with the campaign finance laws doing so? We have a section on public disclosures. We're also the filing office for personal financial disclosures and gift and honorary reports. We have some news updates, and then we have our laws, rules, and policies. So we've got Amendment 27. We've got Fair Campaign Practices Act. We've got our rules, which this link also will take you to a page where we periodically, and we did, in fact, earlier this year, have a rulemaking, and it'll show you when we put out initial rules, it'll show you public comments on those rules, and then our final rulemaking and final rules as they change. And then we have a link for some litigation, agency decisions, and advisory opinions that our offices put out. Some of the most helpful material, I think, is here in your bottom right-hand corner. As I alluded to, the filing calendars. We put out information for filers on when they are to file those reports. Some contribution limit charts, which are basically all that information you can find then in the Campaign and Political Finance Manual, which is probably the #1 resource for you that at least we as an office put out to assist people. So we have this manual. You'll see it's 138 pages long. That's intimidating to a lot of folks, but I will tell you only about the first 35 to 40 pages is material that we condense. So we take, Amendment 28, we take the FCPA, and we take our rules, and we put it into, what we consider kind of a layman's guide on how to comply with campaign finance. Now, this is the Secretary of State's interpretation of law, as you know, you've heard in the last hour and a half that, you know, take it for what it's worth. That's what we're trying to do to put together as much information as possible for people who want to understand what all these laws mean. And then the rest of the manual, the remaining 100 pages or so, is the law. So it's going to be, you know, Amendment 28, it's going to be the FCPA, and it's going to be the current rules. And we do update this pretty frequently, I'd say at least yearly. We revised it in October of this year to reflect changes in some of the legislation that you heard about earlier, small scale issue committees. There was also a school board election bill earlier this year that made some changes, and then of course we implemented rules related to that legislation, and that changed some of our guidance as well. So as I said, this guide you know, goes through a number of things. It also has some handy dandy charts at the end where we put together the updated, let me get to it real quick so you can see it while I'm talking about it. Updated contribution limits and prohibited contributions, so some really good information for filers on, and we break it down by, you know, types of committees and types of political activities. You don't have to read through the whole thing. And then we have a complaint and waiver section, and then a tracer section. And then we get to these appendices where we talk about, you know, what are the election cycles, and then these charts for contribution limits. So you can kind of see broken down based on our rules, types of prohibited contributions and contribution limits. And so we provide all of that information in our manual. So that's one of the most helpful resources I think that we put out, and we spend a lot of time and effort, you know, putting that information together for folks. And we also have this complaint feature. So we have essentially a little training here, which we guide a lot of people to when they call and have, so a couple of things that will happen if they call and say, you know, I see this type of political activity happening in my area, is it against the law? So we'll first, you know, talk them through it, we'll guide them to the Campaign and Political Finance Manual and have them look at that to see if what they saw or experiencing they think is a violation of any of those laws, and then we'll guide them to this link, which essentially walks folks through. I think it's a helpful tool for both those who want to file a complaint and those who may have had a complaint filed against them, because it walks them through exactly what's going to happen once they receive that complaint, or once they file that complaint, and how they walk through the Office of Administrative Court procedure. And so those are kind of the links on our website. Does anybody have any questions about any of that material, or? No? Okay. So as I said, this may be a review for a lot of you, but I just want to make sure everybody's aware of, you know, what we have out there and the work that we do to help folks get that compliance and not have a complaint filed against them.
Melissa, let me just
Sure.
say, I think your resources are just top-notch, especially the tracer. That's just a really high-quality program that I really do appreciate using a lot of others.
And we appreciate that. We spend a lot of time, our campaign finance folks are here in the back, and they've spent a lot of time developing that system and making sure that we're complying with all the laws. And we do appreciate that very much. And so that's a great segue. I'm going to talk a little bit about Tracer. I'm mostly going to talk about the functions related to how you can look at complaints, because that's one of the things we're here to talk about. You know, there's a lot of resources on Tracer on how you can search committees and how many contributions or expenditures they may have received, but I want to talk a little bit about something that Tracer does that I'm not sure a lot of folks know about, and it's that it has a complaint search feature. So this is essentially the module. I'm going to pull up Tracer here in a minute and show you how to get to it, but it acts somewhat like a Westlaw or LexisNexis for, you know, kind of an enclosed Office of Administrative Court ALJ decision. So since I think 2000, and we got a little bit better at it in 2002. So all administrative law judge cases that have come through our office that we've transmitted and we've received decisions back from their office for have been entered into Tracer and have a searchability function. So, you know, we get a lot of cases like, where people will call and say, I have a case like this, you know, what do you know about it? Or, you know, what recent decisions have there been on it? So I typically guide people to this functionality, and I'm gonna pull up Tracer, just to kind of walk you guys through what this might look like. Tracer tab here. So this is the Tracer homepage. When you get to this page, you know, it has a lot going on. You might typically not see this drop down, but you'll want to go to this search drop down, and that's going to take you to a whole bunch of functions that you're able to do if you're interested in any of them, one of which is a complaint search. So this is the page that I had previously on the slide. So it'll give you an option to put in the complainant's name, the respondent's name. We have a number of case categories that each of these, you know, they may have more than one, but we typically try to determine what the bulk of the case is that we've received and fit it under one of these categories. The subject is going to be basically what the allegations of the complaint are. Disposition is going to be, you know, what the decision of the administrative law judge contained. If you have a specific case number, you can put that in. If you only want to search cases within the last year, within the last 5 years, we have functionality to do that. And then, of course, if you just want to look at pending cases, you can click on open. If you just want to look at cases that have been decided, you can click on close. If you want to look at all of them, you click on all. And so we do, once I receive those decisions here at our office, we do input relevant information from the decision into Tracer, into this feature, so that you can easily, you know, if you want to look at prohibited contributions to political subdivisions making prohibited contributions, which is in Article 45 under Section 117. You can type in that statutory citation, click search. I didn't put any, you'll see that I didn't put any periodic restrictions on it, but you can pull up then all of the cases that Tracer has, and you'll see we have some even dating back to 2000 that deal with that particular issue. You can see those decisions. You can, you know, flip it and make them to where you have more recent decisions. So you'll be able to see all the cases related to that. And then you'll also see some relevant information here, the allegations, and then you can view that case, which I think is probably the most helpful feature when you're doing research. You know, we'll have the category, we have some of the specifics of the allegations of the complaint. We'll put in relevant portions of the ALJ decision, and then you'll see here at the bottom, all of the documents that this office has received related to this complaint are scanned in, and you can view them there. Now, I will say that we've done our best to scan in every piece of paper that we have in our office, and so, as I said, we have stuff back to 2000, some of that early 2000s. The documentation that we have is a little iffy, but, you know, certainly within the time when Tracer was implemented to now, we do have basically all the information that we've ever received related to these cases. And so, you know, we'll have the original complaint. Of course, that's after it's been transmitted to the Office of Administrative Courts and file stamped in. Occasionally people, as you'll see in this one, somebody transmitted a complaint, it looks like either via email or fax, and then they sent us an original complaint in the mail. And so you'll sometimes see two entries for a complaint. We'll scan both of those in just in case there are any discrepancies between the two. And then typically we will not receive any substantive pleadings or motions because you know, our office is not involved in these cases. We transmit them to the Office of Administrative Courts, and then we essentially, you know, are hands off of them until we receive the decision from the ALJ. And so once we receive that, we will also scan that in, and so all of the documents that we have should be here under this tab. And I will say, you know, we do our best to put in searchable information. I know Tracer only has, let me see, a function here for a statute citation. I will tell you that since I've been doing this, which is the last 3.5 years, I've been putting in relevant constitutional citations in that statute citation area. So, you know, if you're wanting to search on a particular constitutional citation, you can use that statute citation box to put in an Article 28 citation, and it'll also do some searches for you that way. Does anybody have any questions about this feature of Tracer? It really is a pretty handy tool, and a lot of people call and want this sort of information. And I think it's a lesser known feature of Tracer, but really, really handy for folks who either want to file a complaint or have had a complaint filed against them, and you're assisting a client with that. Right. So I just wanted to give a little bit of, I guess, statistical information on cases filed. I just did a review of the last 5 years. So, you know, looking at our Tracer data, in the last 5 years or so, 2012 we had 13 cases filed, 11 cases, we had a jump in 14, 50 cases were filed in 2014 calendar year, 25 cases last year, and then 25 cases so far this year. And so, just to give you an idea, so these, I went through the data for these last 5 years, took a little bit deeper look into the cases that were lined out in the previous slide. So these are the top 5 bullets here are really the top 5 categories of case that we see. So the most frequent cases. So I don't have these in order of the most frequent, but you'll find that failure to report or disclose a contribution or expenditure, whether it be occupation or employer information for a $100 contribution or more, or just failure to itemize, often an expenditure or contribution, and failure to file an LLC affirmation or attribute to LLC members. That is so that third bullet is our most frequent category, and that you know, encompasses a lot, and it kind of goes hand in hand with prohibit those, actually that's our most, and then we have a couple other ones that go hand in hand, which would be failure to register a committee. So somebody sees a flyer, or they've received a flyer and it has a paid for by statement, they go to our website and they look up that particular committee and it's not there. And so they'll file a complaint that group had failed to register a committee, and that really goes hand in hand with the other one, which is a failure to file a report. So most of those failure to register a committee complaints that we see will also have some allegations regarding both that they failed to register when they should have, and they failed to file a required report. Because if they haven't registered, they haven't filed reports. Then we kind of have some other that are, you know, they're registered committees, but they've failed to identify their electioneering communication on their report, or they failed to file a separate electioneering communication report. They had a major contributor, which is $1,000